Hello, my name is Tommy, and this channel is all about reaching out to evangelical Christians with the gospel of Jesus Christ. I realize that may sound strange, but please hear me out. Some years ago, after looking more closely at the New Testament and after learning more about the early Christian movement, I came to the uncomfortable but clarifying conclusion that the gospel of Protestantism and the gospel of Jesus and the apostles are actually not the same message. They may share some biblical terminology, words like salvation, gospel, justification, faith, grace, but they do not necessarily mean the same thing by those terms. The Protestant gospel redefines these terms to a large degree, and the result is a message that is actually very different from what those earliest Christians heard. This counterfeit gospel simply does not produce the kind of life that the gospel of Jesus can produce. So just to illustrate what I mean, maybe you've spoken with Jehovah's Witnesses before, and you heard them use words like Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, gospel. But you knew that they don't mean the same thing you mean when you use those terms? Well, that's a little bit like what I mean. That's how I think the early Christians would feel about evangelicals. Evangelicals use words like grace, faith, justification, but they don't necessarily mean the same thing that the biblical authors meant when they used those terms. They don't mean the same thing that the apostolic Christians meant when they used those terms. And the result is that they often do not walk that narrow and difficult path that those early disciples were generally committed to. And obviously, this is extremely dangerous. In my experience, not many Christians are willing to see this, but history confirms it. Go ahead, take some time to learn about the early Christian movement, and you'll see that it was very different, and they were understanding the New Testament very differently than many Christians are today, and that includes Catholics and Orthodox Christians, not just evangelicals. We desperately need to be able to make the distinction between the gospel that came out of Europe 500 years ago and the gospel that came out of Israel 2,000 years ago. One tends to produce laxity, if we're honest. The other produces radical, lasting transformation. I hope that you will be open to what I'm trying to say here on this channel, and if you would like to talk, please let me know. I also have some content that I made for skeptics, Jewish people who are open to faith in Jesus, and Christians who are addicted to pornography and who would like to break free, and you can find those videos in the playlists. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I hope to hear from you in the comments.